Do you hear that sound? Usually when people go over time on their presentations, we do what we call twinkle them because we have a twinkle ringtone that we play in here. But tonight we're gonna call it Summit. We're gonna play Summit, and this is the sound that we play if the pitch goes over its time. I like it. It got you to stop talking. Okay, let's go. You ready? All right. So for those of you that are newcomers, I just want to let you know that this, and also for those of you that have been here before and are mildly confused about what we do here, I want to set you straight. So I have been struggling to figure out how to describe what we do here because every month it's a little bit different. Sometimes it's serious, sometimes it's zany. It's almost always on time. It's really interesting, and we tend to learn a lot, and also people get to know each other. So this is really, I think, in a way, Ben's entrepreneurial living room. So we sometimes we sing together. I force you to do that. We've done a couple sing-alongs to Domi Origato, Mr. Roboto, and Ice Ice Baby. And sometimes we talk about data and trends. But really what we do a lot of is actually get to know what's going on with entrepreneurs and leaders and innovators in our region and from further places further flung than that. So if something strange happens tonight, you can blame it on Julie. That's what we do at home, blame it on Julie. And so I want to get us started tonight, but first I'd like you all to give yourselves a big round of applause for having a great day today and showing up. So I'd like to thank our sponsors, without whom this would not be possible: Columbia Bank, Carnot Peterson, and UBS Rivera Wealth Management, and our supporting sponsors, Jones & Ross CPAs, COCC Small Business Development Center. Please stand. All right. Oh, okay. Central Oregon Association of Realtors Corps and Velux Systems. Someday I'm going to work this into a haiku or some rap, but for now I'll give you that list. And I'd like to introduce Keith Rivera from UBS. Keith.
Hello, my name is Keith Rivera. We have clients all over the United States. We have an office here. I have another office in Alaska. So here we go. Technically, right now, the market is very divorced from reality. Right now, the market is very, very overvalued by any academic standards. I went to Wharton School of Business, so from an academic point of view, it's very, very overvalued. Having said that, though, we're going to have higher growth, higher earnings, and higher inflation to even keep up with where the market is today. Right now, the market reminds me of 2000, actually 1998, when I remember they were saying that we were in a new paradigm and that technology was taking over, and the older folks like me and Warren Buffett and these people didn't know what we were talking about. And we did get out of the market. We did reduce our portfolio quite a bit in 1998. But the bull market runs much higher than you think, even when it's overvalued. Right after that, it went up 30, 40%. But after that, it wasn't really a new paradigm because it crashed. What the new revolution is today, which reminds me of, like then, is the Donald Trump policy. The revolution now is Donald Trump getting the tax reform all done, getting infrastructure done, repatriating all these businesses that have $3-4 trillion overseas to bring their money over here. And that's a big gamble because he's got to have Congress on his side to get all these things done. So, so that's something to be concerned about. My recommendation is that if you're in short term, 3 to 5 years, I would have very low equities, 30, 35%. If you're long term, like Ryan up here, who just worked with me at Brasada Ranch, he can put 100% in stocks for 20 years. But if you're 3 to 5 years away, I would be very, very careful. I would not put new money in the market right now. If you're going to put new money, put it in non-U.S. stocks because they're down. And I wouldn't get greedy. The greedy part's over with. You get greedy when everybody doesn't want to get in the market. That's when you get greedy. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you so much, and I want to have a trophy for the sponsors that stay within their pitch time. You know, we in the venture world and in the angel world, we have these pitches that are timed, and so we decided as part of Pubtalk that we would also time our sponsors, and they've been awesome sports about it. So thank you, Keith, for that update. Really appreciate it. John Napier from Carnot Peterson. John.
It's great to see everyone tonight. Welcome to Pubtalk. As Julie mentioned, my name's John Napier. I'm the managing partner of the Carnot Peterson Law Firm, a full-service business law firm based here in Bend with about 30 attorneys and staff. And one of the things Carnot Peterson loves about Bend is the close-knit nature of the business community. We're almost like a family. Because we're almost like family, I want to share a recent personal experience. Is that okay? Yeah. I turned 45 in January. Thank you, but that's not it. I'm getting there. My first speaking engagement after my birthday was at the February Pubtalk, where I had a humbling midlife experience. I was trying to share a fantastic quote from the Wall Street Journal, but butchered it because I couldn't read it. Things snowballed from there. I got the hook from going overtime from Julie. And I've come prepared this time with glasses, 18-point font, and a plan to keep my comments brief. I promise. The last few Pubtalks, I've talked about changes at the Securities and Exchange Commission. Since then, President Trump's nominee for chairperson, Jay Clayton, has been approved in committee, and a full Senate vote is coming up. He's expected to be confirmed. Rather than trying to read a quote, I'm going to paraphrase this time. Mr. Clayton is expected to reduce regulatory burdens and boost IPO activity. So stay tuned, and please don't hesitate to contact me or any other Carnot Peterson attorney if we can be of any help. And with that, please enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you.
I knew there was something up when you said, "Good to see you." Thanks, John. Okay, do I have the microphone in the right position for, we're good? Okay, thank you. So these events are not possible without our sponsors and certainly not without the EDCO staff. So I want to give you a little rundown on who's here. And if you haven't met one of these fine folks, you should actually take some time and get to know them before the end of the evening. So Erin Chayette, Operations Manager. Are you here in the room, Erin? Okay. Well, I was going to ask her to sing, but... Brian Vieira, Venture Catalyst. Terry Hockett, Technology Industry Coordinator. Tom Rowley, Bend Manager. Steve Parnell, Lapine Sun River Manager. David Haynes, the EDCO Intern. Janet Brown, Jefferson County Manager. Caprielle Lewis, Sisters Manager, and Roger Lee. So thank you all. Let's give them a round of applause. So at this time, we usually have a director's minute, and since we have a couple minutes, I wanted to...
The microphone's in the right spot.
Okay. Go ahead.
I'm talking now. Does it work? I'm thinking it will work. Can you hear me? Is it better? A little less crackly? So one of the great resources, so I'm going to spend a few minutes because we have an extra couple minutes in the agenda. One of the great resources that we have in Oregon that's actually nationally renowned is the HALO report. And the HALO report provides data about angel investing across the country. And some of you are angel investors, some of you are business leaders, some of you are entrepreneurs, and some of you are interested parties. The new HALO report for 2016 just came out today, so I wanted to read you some stats from this. I think we can just nerd out for a minute on a few on a few stats. So 7.1% of the angel deals that happened in the country happened in Oregon last year. Valuations dropped. So the pre-money valuations dropped to average mean to 3 million, around 3.5 million, let's say. The round sizes were 950K average, and angel investor groups did about 127K. So what that says is that it takes multiple angel groups or multiple funds usually to put together a round. And we certainly find that in Oregon where capital is not plentiful. So if a company is raising more than a couple $100,000, there's usually multiple parties involved in that investment. Now here's an interesting one. So nationally, 17% of the investments were in women-owned, women-run companies, and 83% in male-owned companies. But in the Northwest, we have a little bit what I consider to be better percentages. In the Northwest, 21% women-owned. So interestingly, in the fund management arena, 10% and falling are women fund managers across the country. So 90+% of fund management occurs by male-run organizations. And so we have a little bit of a phenomenon here in Bend in that we do have an angel fund run by a woman. Yep. And then there's an increased interest in what happens with underrepresented entrepreneurs, women and people of color. And so there's starting to be some studies about this. There are no studies yet about the relative success. There are some about women-run companies that actually indicate that if there's a woman on the executive team of a company, the team usually performs at a higher productivity rate. But we can talk more about that another time. Anyway, so the investments that happen are 13% in companies owned by white women, 3% in women of color, and 26% in men of color. So we have some work to do to make sure that everybody gets a chance, and we'll see how that goes. I think my bias on this is that anybody who has a good idea that wants to grow a business should get a chance to do that. So we'll see how that goes over the years. And last but not least, what kinds of deals are happening? So this will be interesting to those of you that are investing or raising money. 50% of the deals that are occurring through angel groups are preferred stock. 31% are convertible notes, and 19% are debt or some other form of instrument. So we've had a number of funds that have come in and spoken, and I haven't given you an update on Cascade Angels recently, so I wanted to do that really briefly. I try to minimize my mentioning of Cascade Angels because I have this bully pulpit here, but I did want to tell you that this April marks the third anniversary of our first investment. We've deployed nearly $2 million in 13 companies. The 13 companies are all still in existence and thriving. And those companies employ over 100 people in Oregon and the Pacific Northwest. So we don't have any information about exits yet because there have been none, but we think it's a good sign that the companies are still in existence. And one thing I would mention about angel funds in particular is that they are slightly different than traditional funds in that they are really utilized as more of a community asset. So we have a dual mission, and our primary mission is to generate a return, and nested inside of that, the founders of Cascade Angels said, we really want to diversify the economy in Central Oregon and in Oregon generally so that the next time there's a downturn, we're not hit so hard. So our portfolio is demonstrable of that in that we have products companies like Cairn, which is an outdoor company. We have a consumer tech company, Outdoor Project. We have a virtual reality company that does game design called Zero Transform here in town, and then a handful of really cool SaaS companies. And so what I wanted to just say to you tonight is thank you for the support over these first 3 years of active investing. And each year a new fund is formed. And if you are an accredited investor and are interested in information, please let me know. This is not a general solicitation. Thank you. Okay, so on to the show. I'm really happy tonight to introduce co-founder, CEO, and chairman from Manzama, Peter Azulon, who will give an update on the subscription-based software as a service platform that aggregates news, corporate press releases, industry and trade publications, and social media from the public domain. And full disclosure, Manzama is a Cascade Angels investment. So Peter, welcome.
All right, pleasure to be here. Better start working on my exit strategy after that opening remark over there for the company, right? And for Manzama, let's hope it doesn't go that way. I love 1999. That was a great year, but because I was in software, and that was actually when I did my first startup. So just before that, so I get to have a cheat sheet tonight because I'm actually, don't have to commit this to memory like we did when we won the Ben Venture Conference in 2010. And typically when you're going through that exercise, you better be the smartest guy in the room, right? Because you know something that everybody else doesn't know, and got to have command of all your facts and everything of that nature. Well, I'm not the smartest guy in the room, so that's great. I'll settle for the top 50% and rely on my cheat sheet here. So thanks, Julie, for the reintroduction there. Manzama, I'm CEO and chairman. We've been going since now 2010. We were the winner of the Ben Venture Conference that year. In that year, let's sort of kind of table set a little bit, and I'll tell you about where we're at today. There's a different kind of caliber of companies coming through, I'll tell you that much. It's good to see, because we had zero revenue, we didn't have any customers, but we had a pretty good idea, and it's carried forward to play out nicely, and I'll talk about some of the inflection points we've seen along the way. But the Ben Venture Conference had faith in us, and we had a very strong focus on a certain industry, law firms in particular. I won't get into reasons why, but by virtue of my background, some of the founders' background, that made a lot of sense. So since that time, we have grown. Today, we're at 30 people full-time. Our monthly reoccurring revenue is $400,000 a month. We have about a 98% stickiness in terms of customer renewals. Actually, the last 4 years, we've gone from 89 to 91% to 95 to 98% this last quarter. So it's very high margin revenue. We're really, really proud of that success. We have offices in the UK, customers there, of course. We wouldn't have offices there without customers, but we're also in half of the largest firms in Australia, about half the largest firms in Canada. Of the top 100 firms in the United States, we are now in 60. So many of these customers have been customers now with us for multiple years. In fact, I think one of the big accomplishments when we're talking about sort of key updates to the business has been our ability to sort of turn those into long-term commitments, right? So most of our customer commitments are about 2-year average now. When we sign a deal, they commit to paying us for 2 years, if not 3 years. So, and we're profitable. We actually haven't raised money since 2014, actually, when Cascade Angels was part of that last round. So we had a round in 2010, which was the Ben Venture Conference round. And then 2014, we have a little less than about $2.5 million outside capital in. So herein lied the conscious choice, right? We had that inflection point. Do we keep raising money, see if we can grow faster? We kind of chose a different philosophy, and I think that's one of the things that anybody, money is not the end game. Isn't raising money, right? It's return on investment. And so for us, in our market size, it made sense for us to be a little more conservative on what we needed to raise. And we think we can get a really great return for our investors without raising a lot more money. That doesn't mean that will always be the case. We're looking at different sort of possibilities as we hit certain inflection points in revenue that might suggest that we need to do that. In terms of product, Julie did correctly sort of describe our product where it was 7 years ago. I think it's really important to recognize when you're entrepreneuring and an entrepreneur's up there making a pitch, talking about a product, it is a minimum viable product, right? And so what we've done over the last 7 years is we've taken something that was really about a better way to find insights in news and media for professionals, right? Identifying risk and opportunity in news into extending that into content management where they can bring in their own sources, so proprietary content, and then adding on features related to content marketing, i.e. ways for them to distribute and share that content to their customer base. So doing all this innovation has allowed us to increase our price points by, I think it's a little over 50% since those times at Ben Venture Conference in the early days. What's one of the, I think, more rewarding things for Mark and I, who's here in the room, my co-founder. Well, first of all, get yourself a good co-founder because it's a pretty long run, and I've got a great one. And oftentimes you're making decisions in a bit of a vacuum in those early stages. So that's been a great ride with him. But we've had other sort of organizational changes as we continue to grow and evolve. One of those I have a bit of a hard time seeing is a new CTO in the room. Mike Hollenbaugh, he joined us from Navis, so more a company that where he was at 15 plus years, and in and around the time where we're at revenue-wise, and saw that company grow to 20-30 million. So we're excited about that. By virtue of our clients committing to what the product roadmap and the vision that we have, we're also going deeper into this space and hiring folks that I couldn't even fathom we'd be hiring 6-7 years ago. Another gentleman that's not here tonight, he's actually out of Portland, where we now have 6 people in Portland, a small office there, a chief data scientist. So one of the trends in the news is to actually get you to a place where you're going to read less, right? I'm going to produce insights just by knowing things about you and saying, hey, lawyer that's does tax law, you should care about this, or we know you're tracking this company. Well, in some respects, I have to remove the search from search if I want to achieve that goal. So to be able to work with a data scientist, and in this case, the first gentleman we hired has a PhD in cognitive psychology from Brown University, Northwestern math major, has worked for the government, analyzing like terrorism news and social unrest before things happen. And it's just a fascinating experience for myself and other people at the company that were just kicking and scratching to try to get someone to believe in what we were doing. In fact, we just hired our second PhD, another data scientist, to help with some of the new products that we're building. So, throwing a lot at you. That's a lot that's happened over the last few years. In terms of new investments, announcements, no. Like I said, we haven't raised money since 2014. Probably, you can never say never, but that's not our plan for the time being. In terms of asks, we just, be supported in the community is great. And when we have job openings, apply, because I'd rather hire people here than in Portland. But we'll go where we can find the best talent. So I think that's my cue. Thank you for my time tonight.
All right. Stay okay with me. I'm going to have 5 minutes of Q&A. I'll repeat the questions, okay? Okay, so the way we do this is, because we have a couple rooms going, is we take questions, and then I repeat the questions so the people in the other room can hear, and then Peter will answer them. So we have a couple minutes for that. Do you have questions? There's a lot of information. Go ahead.
Hi, I was just wondering if you plan on taking that model to other industries.
We take that model to other industries?
Yes, and we already have to some extent. So sort of the decision point we have now, well, not necessarily now, but we'll continue to have probably the next 4 or 5 years, is sort of how aggressive do we want to pursue other industries. And the reason why I say it's a decision point is there's sort of 2 paths that we can take, I believe, as a company. One is to continue to pursue other industries where we have clients in PR, financial services today, some accounting firms that license Manzama. Or, we look at this, the spend in legal on news products or customized news products is $1 billion a year? Or do we try to go capture more of that spend, through existing customers and new innovation? And so right now, our path of least resistance is actually probably getting more spend from existing customers. There's no reason why they can't spend 2 or 3 times the amount they're spending with us today. A lot of them are advising us on our new products. We're starting to pull in some advisors of our current clients, one of which is a large PR firm I won't mention by name, but to be part of those advising boards. And I think as we develop confidence and understanding that this really has true fit outside of legal, we'll go faster here. Tough part there too is that's sort of a scale investment, right? We got to decide, do we want to raise more money? Can we do that out of cash flows? I mean, we're financing our own growth at 20-30% with we doubled our engineering team last year. So I have to, and Mark, we have to think about when's the right time for that and what does that mean for sort of the dynamics of the company.
Yeah, great answer. Yes, Preston.
You mentioned the UK, which brought to mind how challenging is the internationalization of the platform as you go from country to country?
Yeah, so you brought to the fore UK. How complicated is it to scale the platform across various countries? Did I get that right? Okay.
Super easy. But I'm not the one that has to do it, so so that's the best part about that part. But it was definitely a challenge. I mean, one of the reasons why I raised money in 2014 was to expand internationally. We had a competitor over in the UK that was starting to encroach on our business here, and we decided, at that time we actually had already turned profitable. Let's go ahead and raise more money and take the fight to them, so to speak. And we sort of made some assumptions on sort of content sources more rather than sort of taking in international content. And it took us a while. We spent a lot of money, a lot of that what we raised to get to profitability over there. But more specifically, the challenge wasn't so much about bringing content in other languages. It's actually ends up being rather simple. It's more can they search in the same dialect, and I think those are where we covered greater challenges. But we now actually have a client in South Africa as well, Germany. So most of the firms we work with are international. It's been they helped us cross over that bridge too.
If you were in 2 sentences, if you were starting the new company today, what advice would you give an entrepreneur who was starting a new company today?
This is really great I was asked this question because this is one question I thought I might get asked, oddly enough. And Mark and I were having a funny conversation about this. You know what advice I give him? I would give him my advice would be don't. And I'm not kidding. I'm absolutely not kidding. And I mean that in a way that you need to find every reason that something won't work versus trying to find every reason that it will work. Okay, so a lot of entrepreneurs spend time on this is the best thing, and they can't see past the stuff that is not really great about what you're doing. And so I sort of take my approach to sort of new ideas is not to get overly invested until I start seeing various validation points. And because once you're in, you're not getting out. And I mean, you might think you're going to get out 2-3 years to get this actually maybe. Or you might be in at 7, 10, 15, so you better really, be committed to the fight and have a lot of conviction and a lot of data points that this actually makes sense to do, right? And so I honestly say, don't do it. Tell me 10 reasons why you shouldn't do this, and have you checked all those boxes?
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Thank you all for coming. Thank you, Peter, for your leadership, and thanks, Mark, also for your leadership in our community. And we love having your team here in town, and it's great to hear of your expansion. So I want to take a quick commercial break for sponsor Spencer Morgan from Columbia Bank. Spencer?
Thank you, Julie. So normally, Columbia Bank goes after Carnot Peterson, and they have some classy wine that they give out to whoever can answer their questions. So tonight I've got some classy Fireball because bankers are classy. So those of you in the other room, if you want to come in here, you have a chance to win this special beverage. Okay, it's multiple choice, but I'm not going to give you the 4 answers until you guys can't get the right one, maybe. So I need some help from my 2 guys over here and gal, my guy and gal. Christina and Taylor, watch for somebody to listen for it. Topic of tonight's discussion is about fraud prevention or fraud protection. How much time does a business have to identify and return suspected fraudulent ACH transactions?
24 hours. 48.
Oh, who said that? That's the correct answer. The answer is 48 hours. How many business owners in this room knew that? Are you a business owner? There you go. Hey, that's great. As a startup, she knew that. Typically, consumers, you have 60 days. 60 days in consumer banking to reverse those. My point is, a lot of you guys don't realize that banks here in the community have what's called Treasury management services. That allows you to have the bank work for you and protect you from these items. We happen to have a Treasury management officer that works with us, Kristen Warner-Lee. Although she's not here today, she's been traveling around most of Oregon, Southwest Washington, Southeast, East. You know what? Her office is here, but she's everywhere. She actually recently won an award that we give out. The Columbia Bank gives out to 1 or 2 people a year for highly successful customer service, appreciation. She's very good to work with, and you guys just happen to have her here locally to work with. So if that's something that's on your mind, feel free to reach out to us, reach out to Kristen. I'd be happy to look that stuff over. That's good, right? I did want to say this. Word of advice, do not try a new energy drink 2 hours before you come to speak at Pubtalk. I'm not nervous, I want to go jump through that wall now. Thank you guys, enjoy the show.
Well, over the next several minutes, we talked about a lot of things. I asked a lot of questions about bikes and bike geometry and frame materials, and he answered a lot of them, and I kept going on for a while. Well, at some point, I think he got a little tired of me and decided I probably wasn't going to be buying a bike that day, so he said, you know what? I think what you need to do is do a little more research, and he gave me a couple of websites and ushered me out the door. So I'm standing on the sidewalk thinking, I don't know any more about what bike to buy than when I went in. Well, sometime later, I got a chance to sit down with the owner of that shop, and I relayed to him that experience. And I told him what it felt like to be standing out there on the sidewalk, feeling dismissed and not heard. And he said something to me that I found really remarkable. He said, I've done that. I've dismissed people out of my bike shop when I thought they were just looking for information and weren't going to buy anything. It really aggravates me, he said, when people come into my shop and they pick the brains of my people and then they leave and they go buy something on the internet or some other shop. Those people are killing the local bike shops. Well, that took me aback a bit. And I said, yeah, I get your point, but do you understand that they're coming into your shop because you have something really valuable to them? You have knowledge and experience and expertise, and they need that. They need that from you to decide what bike's best for them. He said, okay, I get it. But you know what? If you want to know what bike's best for you, you need to ask what bike fits best. I said, okay. And he said, but now you're asking a question that my sales force can't answer. Because if you want to know what bike fits best, you need a bike fitting. And you got to make an appointment for that. And it takes time. And people don't want to make that commitment. They want quick answers, quick and simple. And they want to ask the question of the salesperson, what bike's best for me? And they can't answer. I can't tell you that. Well, I thought about it and I said, I understand what he's saying and I understand the frustration, but the reality of it is we do, as customers, need that help. And he does need to find a way to take that bike fitting experience and get it onto the sales floor. He needs a fit-based sales system. I think what he needs is, he needs us. We're SIVA. Our SIVA Fit system takes the expertise of the bike fitter and puts it into a software application into the hands of every salesperson on the bike floor. It changes the dynamic from being about the bikes to being about bike fit, from being about sales to being about service. Our process is pretty much the same as what a bike fitter goes through. We start with you, we get your information, and we build you as an avatar in the software. Then we get a bunch of information from you, your fitness, your core strength, injuries, all the information a bike fitter used to put you in the position that's best for you. That's the best balance between aerodynamics and strength and comfort. And then we take your contact points, your bike contact points, your hands, your seat, your feet, and we match those against a database of bikes and find the bikes that put the handlebar and the saddle and the pedals where you need them to be. So if you think that sounds good, you might be asking, well, geez, can you do that? Can you take the expertise, the skill, and the artistry of a bike fitter and put it into software? Well, to answer that, I'm going to turn it over to my partner here. Bart Bowen's a former professional cyclist. I'll let you Google his accomplishments because it's kind of cool. But what I care about, and what we all care about, is what he's done for the last 17 years. As owner of Bowen Sports Performance here in Bend, he trains, he coaches, and he does expert bike fittings to professional cyclists and recreational cyclists every day. He brings his extraordinary cycling knowledge to us. It's his brain, his cycling brain, that we put into the application. Bart?
Thanks, David. Well, first of all, I know a lot of you think that cycling's supposed to hurt. But that's a paradigm that I break every day when people come to see me, because I say, it's not supposed to hurt. It's supposed to be fun. You're supposed to enjoy it. And the more you enjoy it, the more you do it. So I'm really passionate about what I do, and I love what I do, because someone comes to me and they say, oh, my back hurts, my neck hurts, my hands are going numb. And instantly I think, I can help this person. And we go through a very elaborate process of connecting the dots and seeing what is causing this to happen. We have what we call a dynamic fit unit. So I take a blank fit. I don't care where this person is when they come in. I'm going to set them in a place where all of these painful or discomforts or maybe biomechanical disadvantages are gone. And then I'm going to take that person and I'm going to look at those coordinates and I'm going to put it on their existing bike, or if they come to me early enough, I'm going to put it on their new bike. And I wish I could do a bike fit for every single person before they buy a bike, because now they've bought the right bike. Because it's so disappointing to do all of that, have them super comfortable, and then say, well, here's the best case scenario. Your bike doesn't work. And it's because you're on the wrong size bike. Or maybe that bike needs to be custom. So David and I have worked consistently trying to look at the data and say, okay, can we give this person the macro fit and get them on the right size bike to start with? And the answer is yes. We have the data. As David mentioned, 17 years, over 250 fits a year. Lots of looking at angles, lots of studying that, what works, what doesn't work, and realizing that there is a range that we can work within to get that person to the macro or the close fit, and then get them to the right bike. So then, if they want to come back for the fine-tuning that we also do, that's going to be the second part of the process. But at SIVA-Fit, we're trying to get them on the right bike to begin with. And if we do that for 90% of the people, they're probably not going to be coming to see me unless they want to really tune it to the final degree.
Thanks, Bart. Well, let me spend just a little bit of time talking about the business side because, as my CPA tells me, we're not actually a philanthropic effort. We're trying to make this work. So I'll start with the market. Our primary market is the 4,000 bike shops in the U.S. that sell high-end bikes. They sell them to 400,000 riders a year that buy these bikes. That's a $750 million a year market for high-end bikes alone in the U.S. alone. It's a very substantial market, but it's really one that's in trouble. The bike retailing model is pretty much broken. As I described earlier, the focus has always been on the bike, and competition is taking its toll. What bike shops need to do is move to what they do best. Their market advantage is service and expertise. And most importantly, they need the tools to get them there. Our software application brings together the customer's needs and the bike shop's ability to deliver that need. Our team is Bart, there's me, Bart's team at Bowen Sports Performance, Cody Peterson and others. We have a very talented, dynamic woman who works on SEO and content and digital marketing. We have outside consultants that are working on software and graphics and other parts of the business. But we're making an effort right now. What we want to do is bring a lot of this in-house and build our team. We're looking for chief-level people for technology and finance and some of the other important roles. And we're building our panel of advisors and our board of directors. We're a Bend, Oregon company, and we're hoping to find those people right here. Well, to sum it up, you're a bike customer, and you need a bike that fits. And you're a bike shop, and you need to service that customer and give them what they need. Our software application provides the service that you need to provide to be competitive, to have the customers be happy, to build brand loyalty to you, not just to the bikes. We'll be in a bike shop near you soon. Check us out at cevafit.com. We're putting up a lot of information pretty much regularly. We hope to hear from you. Thank you very much.
They were 6 seconds over and we didn't buzz them. That was really good. Good job, you guys. Okay. So I'm going to repeat some questions. There's a question right here.
Yeah. So my question to you guys is, I'm a custom bike builder here in town, right? Martin knows who I am. But, so it sounds to me like your application is strictly limited to retail outlets and not necessarily something like what we do. Is that correct, or am I misunderstanding?
So does this application work for custom bike builders or just retail?
The focus is really to get into bike shops because the majority of customers go there. But no, absolutely, this is applicable to anyone. We're talking about a database of bikes, of existing bikes, but there's no reason that we aren't talking about custom bikes as well. The bottom line is what we do is we position the person, we get the contact points, and basically we get a geometry for a bike. We then go find a stock bike, but obviously if you're in the custom business, now you've got the information to build a custom bike to that geometry. So no, it's applicable across the board.
Jim?
Who pays you and how do you get paid?
Who pays you and how do you get paid?
The model on that primarily is through license agreements with bike shops. There's a little more to it, but I'll leave it to there right now because it's really what we're talking about here tonight. I want this as a service tool for the bike shops. I do not think the bike shops ought to be charging for it. I think it helps their service. Their sales will improve, their customer service will improve, and we'll reap the benefits as a license agreement.
SJ?
Yeah, I kind of a two-part question. Sorry. First part is, from a technical perspective, are you doing this as your back end for your software using AI or machine learning at all? And the second part is this only applicable to bikes, or can this be extended in the future? The way you've designed it to fly fishing for fly rod, or carving skis or powder skis? Or how far do you, what's your long-term vision? You know you have to focus right now.
Can you can you apply this to other sports tools? And knowing that you need to stay focused now, what's your long-term vision?
The answer, I think there was a first part of that too that I've forgotten too. There we go, AI or machine learning. We are looking at a number of ways to improve not only inputs to the system, but also the refinements of the outputs. As Bart said, there's outliers. And we're looking at machine learning to learn, in essence, the outliers from more data. We're not doing that now. As to applicability to other industries, no. We're looking at bikes right now. We've got our hands full with the full range of bikes and the fit characteristics of that.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. We're out of time for questions. We'll go on to our next speaker. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So we always have a real variation in our presenters tonight, and the next person that's going to speak is Ashley Phelps, who's responsible for the cupcakes on your table. Yes? No, did you something? Oh, you meant to take credit for that, for the cupcakes? Yeah. David meant to take credit for it. They were actually designed by the Bike Fit program. No. Sorry, erase that. Okay. So I'd like to invite Ashley up to the stage. Ashley's the founder and CEO of Color Kitchen, who created safe, natural food coloring fun. So the colors in the frosting were created by Ashley. Color Kitchen products are already available in 900 stores across the country, including Whole Foods and Target, in an industry that continues to see impressive growth. So Ashley, welcome.
Hello, I'm Ashley, like you said, the founder of Color Kitchen, and I have a line of decorative food coloring that you can use to color your sweets. Before I started Color Kitchen, I had never decorated a cupcake, but my mother was, can't hear?
Is that better? Can you say something?
Hello, is it better? Can you hear me? It's right in my face. Right forward, okay.
Go any closer.
You guys are seeing way too much of me tonight. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, so before I started Color Kitchen, I had never decorated a cupcake, but my mother was a nutritionist, so I was always aware of what I ate. I'm also really sensitive to chemicals, perfumes, laundry detergent, lotions. So years ago, I was living in Berkeley, and my landlord was a chemist, and he was making a house paint out of cactus, and I thought that was really fascinating. He had 3 PhDs from UC Berkeley, and we would get talking about paint and art. And I thought, you know, there's nothing for artists out there that's natural and safe. So I started studying the history of paint making and exploring with different pigments, and I discovered plant colors. Those were the most bright and beautiful colors available. So I discovered beets, purple sweet potatoes, beta-carotene, and started making a line of children's art supplies that were actually safe enough to eat. So I started selling them online, and I sold about $30,000 worth of paint. I thought that was the coolest thing ever. And then I sold $90,000 up to $160,000. I thought I was going to be rich. And then I came out with an Easter egg coloring kit. And the Easter egg coloring kit started selling in grocery stores, and that outsold in 1 year everything else that I'd done. And then the grocery stores were asking me what else I had for cookies and cupcakes, and I realized that I needed to make a pivot and rebrand my product. So my second year here in Bend, Color Kitchen was born. So hopefully most of you are aware artificial food coloring is really, really bad for you. There are 9 artificial dyes approved by the FDA on the shelves right now that have carcinogens in them. They're made from coal tars. They have neurotoxins, but the main concern is links to ADHD with children. So in Europe, there's warning labels on all the products. There's a new bill in California that's been proposed to put warning labels on our products here with products that contain artificial dyes. But the major manufacturers are responding, and you're seeing removal from M&M's, Skittles, Dunkin' Donuts, Lucky Charms, Kraft Macaroni, and that's all a direct response to moms petitioning to have it removed from products. So it's a major mass market issue. But nobody has focused on the baking aisle yet. So if you walk into your grocery store, you're going to see a whole bunch of decorating, icings, frostings, sprinkles, and they're pretty much all artificial. So with Color Kitchen, I'm using beet, turmeric, and spirulina. It's a powder form, so it's spray dried onto a starch, so you don't have the taste and the smell. So your yellow does not taste like curry, or your spirulina, if you're familiar, it's an algae. It does not taste like algae. It was very important to find colors that didn't taste funny. So I have single color packets, and if anybody's interested, I have samples up here after the talks. And they retail for $2.69, which is really great for moms. If they go to the grocery store, they can get a pint of frosting and just pay $2.69 for an extra color packet. I also have natural sprinkles, holiday sets for Valentine's Day, Christmas, and some new fall colors coming out. There is one company that has a natural coloring set that's been around for a while. They have liquid food colors called India Tree, and if you go to Newport Market, I think it's $15.99 for a set. And the liquid food colors go bad in about 6 months, so that's a very expensive cake, and your colors are going to go bad. The beet red goes brown, the blue goes gray, so if you use it once and sits on your shelf, you're going to have to throw it away. McCormick Spice Company has responded to the demand and came out with a powder food color set, but they chose colors that are non-soluble, so your frosting's going to have all these speckles in it, so they're definitely not concerned with quality, and they're sold in the spice section, not in the baking section, like my products. So, and as I move forward, I would like to expand into baking, incorporating the color into innovative products like a natural red velvet cake. So, like Julie said, my first year with last year, it was close to $300,000 in sales in 900 stores, subscription baking boxes. I'm working with Buffy the Vampire Slayer. She has Sarah Michelle Gelliard has a subscription box called Food Stirs, and that just keeps growing and growing, that partnership. I'm on the phone with them almost every week now. I'm in Myers, which is a chain in the Midwest with 230 stores. They just picked up 5 SKUs. Whole Foods in 4 regions, including the UK. Target, they ordered for Easter. We had a 96% sell-through, and so now they want to know what we're going to do for what they call the harvest season, which is obviously Halloween and Thanksgiving. So the baking mix industry, which includes edible food decorations in the retail space, is a $4.1 billion industry. And then we're moving into food service as well. I'm in touch with the global baking buyer for Whole Foods, and we talked yesterday, and he wants to know what we can do to get it out into all their bakeries. So it's very exciting. So basically, this is just an untapped market where mothers want it and nobody's doing it. So I'm well positioned. So I have a team of people helping me. I have a food scientist that used to help me with my paints. So I've known him for many years, and he helps me develop my colors. He helps me with technical issues, and we're making some custom colors as well. And then on my sales team, I have a former baking buyer for Target. He was with them for 8 years, so he really understands that space. So he's helping me on the sales end now and helping me when I do product development to just, figure out if what I'm doing is really going to work. So initially, I was really going to focus on the natural channel and try to grow organically. But after my first trade show, Walmart called me and said, "Hi, it's the National Baking Buyer. We want to put this in all our stores." And I'm like, "I don't even know who you are. Why are you calling me?" So it just let me know right away there was a mass market for it. So I'm kind of doing the retail, specialty, natural channel while doing mass at the same exact time, so I can just do maximum saturation as fast as possible. I have a couple brokers regionally working for me as well. My products are made in Southern California because that's where most of the larger co-packers are that do this type of food packaging. And I need about 3 or 4 at a time, depending if large orders come in. So right now I'm raising money. I'm in a seed round trying to scale the business. I need to hire some more people, like a sales manager. I'd like to focus on online sales this year. And I'm also looking for a marketing associate if anybody needs a job. And so I'm on track to do 2 to 3 times my sales from last year. And the big plan is looking at General Mills and Kellogg's. They lost $18 billion of the market share last year to small competitors, so they've just decided it'd be better to buy people up than make their own stuff. So I'd just like to get my products out as quickly as possible to as many stores as possible so that I capture their attention and hopefully get acquired sooner than later. And so I'm very excited that my products are being used by bakeries like Tartine in San Francisco, which is voted one of the best bakeries in the country. But more importantly, I get emails from moms and dads that say, thank you so much for creating this product. My child can now finally eat birthday cake again. So that makes me feel really good about what I'm doing, that I'm creating a product that has a positive impact on people's lives. So speaking of positive impacts on people's lives, I'd like to thank Julie Harrelson for being supportive. Preston, my Opportunity Knocks advisor, for getting me to think big and show up and challenge myself. I don't always enjoy it, but thank you. And my Naturally Bend group of ladies, Stacy from Healthy Hoo, Debbie from Paleo Eats, Erica from Axology, and Kathy from Pacific Herbs. They helped me decorate my cupcakes. And yesterday, my battery died in front of Michael's when I was buying my cupcake tools. So Stacy jumped in her car with her jumper cables to make sure that everybody could have cupcakes tonight. So I just really appreciate the supportive community here. I've just started reaching out and meeting people, and it's paying off tenfold. So thank you. So if anybody wants to try the food colors, I have samples up here. Also, if you want to try on my website, Color Kitchen Foods, you can get 25% off with the code Pubtalk. Thank you.
Let's just let everybody calm down for a second, and then we can get a little selfie going. Come over here like this, turn face that, and then just go like this, and then just go like this, because we always got to get one. Okay. Questions for Ashley? Jim?
Ashley, do you have anything that's proprietary in the process, or two-part question? And second, besides money, what do you need?
So do you have anything proprietary about your process? And besides money, what do you need?
No. It's all trade secrets, so, I'm not innovating something that I can patent, so it's all about the brand. What do I need besides money? Man, I need a lot of people working for me. Yeah, I need support.
Name a couple of what those are.
Sales manager, online sales advisor, marketing associate, financial advisor. The list goes on and on.
Yeah. Next question? Yes, in the back.
I used to decorate cakes, and I won't eat them very often unless I know what's in them. And these number one taste real.
I couldn't quite hear what you said. Could you say it again, please?
I used to decorate cakes, and I wouldn't eat them because of what other people made, unless I knew what was in them. Because of the aftertaste and all that.
Yeah. So expert cake decorator would not eat other people's because she didn't know what was in them.
Try it, and I thank you because it doesn't have an aftertaste.
Thank you. It doesn't have an aftertaste.
So my question is, how are you going to keep up with supply and demand in natural products?
How will you keep up with supply and demand on the natural products?
How do I keep up with demand?
So like if you get a huge order, like, and you have to source all the natural products, are you going to have an issue?
Yeah, okay. Well, this recently came up because Buffy the Vampire Slayer said she wanted 800,000 packets, and so I had to scramble pretty fast to figure out if I could do it. And it turned out it was going to be a little bit of a challenge, but because I've been doing the paints for so long, I know all of the color suppliers in the US. I know I've worked with people in Japan, all over. So I called the people that I knew, realized I could source the ingredients. My co-packers could do it. So, it depends on what size orders I get, but it's definitely a manageable problem. So,
Stacy? What's the shelf life of this product?
So the shelf life, really, the powder colors last indefinitely, but you have to put some sort of best buy date, so it's best buy within 2 years. Yeah.
One final question? Yes? Do your products work for gluten-free?
Yes, they do, and those are gluten-free cupcakes, so yes.
Great. Okay, thank you so much, Ashley. Really appreciate it. Thanks for the dessert. You know, I always look forward to our speakers, and I especially like the ones who bring snacks. So that's awesome. But I'm really pleased to have the honor of introducing our keynote speaker tonight. Doug Layman has been a great person to collaborate with in the last year for me with Cascade Angels, and just moved here not too long ago and jumped into the community with both feet, as he does with many things. I'm going to give you just a little bit of background. So he'll be our keynote speaker. Doug is the managing partner at Arve Capital LLC and former Kadix Systems founder and president. He's a serial entrepreneur with over 30 years of experience in strategic consulting, technology, entrepreneurship, and investment in both Fortune 500 companies and startups. He's a hard worker. Layman was founder and president of Kadix Systems, an information technology and security company serving the intelligence community with clients including the NSA, DHS, FBI, and Department of Defense. His keynote will explain how, starting with an initial investment of $100, over the course of 7 years, Kadix Systems grew to 4 locations, 350 plus employees, and over $50 million in annual revenue. And one little known fact is that Doug has spent some time doing Baja truck racing with Jimmy Diaz as his navigator. So Doug, it's my pleasure to welcome you to speak with us tonight.
Thank you, Julie. I appreciate the introduction, and I want to thank EDCO for inviting me tonight and the good work they do in the community. And it's funny you mentioned Baja truck racing, because Baja truck racing has a lot to do with being an entrepreneur. You know, when you're flying over those jumps, you have that feeling of weightlessness and free flying, just like you do when you have a success as an entrepreneur. And then shortly thereafter, it feels like someone punched you in the gut. I go that. And when you're an entrepreneur, you get to put your name on the door. But there is when you're racing Baja trucks, you get to put your name on the door too, but you have to put your blood type right after the name. and if you fail as an entrepreneur, well, you might end up living in your car for a while. But if you fail as a Baja truck racer, you might end up with a free ride to the hospital. So I'm going to start out with a story tonight, and it starts in the summer of 2008. And I was in the sales process of Kadix Systems, which, as Julie mentioned, was focused in the national intelligence community. And we had used an auction-style sale. So what that means is you go out, you find qualified buyers, you make management presentations. We made approximately 20 management presentations. We got 12 letters of intent. We selected one, we negotiated terms, and then we went through the due diligence process. And how many people here have been through an acquisition due diligence? Raise your hand. Wow, a lot, great. As you know, that can be quite intrusive. You have investigation on your business side with your customers, with your employees, and we had been going through that for about 3 months. And today was the day that we were supposed to close the deal. And there was a few final legal issues, mostly around my non-compete, that needed to be closed. The signatures were already with the attorneys, and all I needed to do was have the phone call to say, yup, the deal's on, they send the signatures, and it's ready to go. And it was getting late, it was about midnight, I was tired, so I called my attorney and said, I'm going to bed, call me when you figure this out, and I'll approve it. So about 4 a.m., I get a phone call, and the attorney says, hey, we figured out the non-compete, and all I heard after that was blah, 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 blah. And I said, yes, that's it, we're in, let's do the deal, and went back to sleep. So I got up the next morning. I was a little bit late to work, so I went to the coffee shop, got my coffee. I was a little short of cash. I went to the ATM machine. I withdrew $200 from the ATM machine, and I pulled the receipt out. And the receipt said $47,385. So I did. Julie, can you come up here for a second? I did the entrepreneur happy dance. Thank you. So after a couple hours at work, I got a phone call from the head of the investment banking firm we used to sell the business, and he gave his congratulations, but he thought there might be an accounting issue, and my first thought was, oh shit, I'm gonna have to give some of this back. But he proceeded to say that the issue was it would look like that the paid-in capital, which is the amount of money that you used to start your business, was only $100, and that the business didn't have any debt, and the ownership was 100% with me. And so he said it's unlikely that a company could take $100 and 7 years later sell it for $47 million. He asked me, how'd you do that? How did you grow a company 4,700% in 7 years? That's about 600% per year. And so tonight, I'm gonna tell you. How I kind of a little bit of my story about how I went from being a corporate guy to a serial entrepreneur, and then I'm gonna describe some management techniques that we use to help maximize growth and value. But first of all, so how many people in the audience, raise your hand if you are actually an owner or a founder or have been an owner or a founder of a business? Great. Okay, now raise your hand, keep the hands up, hands up. Raise your hand if you would start a new business and be an owner or a founder if you knew it would be worth $47 million in 7 years. Raise your hand. Okay, so now keep your hands up, and raise your hand if you knew your business would be worth $47 million in 7 years and you would have no hair at the end of 7 years. There you go. I like that. That's right. There's yeah. You can't start with no hair. So my goals tonight are twofold. Well, actually threefold. I'd like to finish before Julie's buzzer goes off. I'm kind of terrified of that, actually. Okay. But first thing, I hope to inspire you in starting a business, because it is a risk. And I'm going to talk about how I started 21 years old with a degree in industrial engineering from Oregon State University. I had $500 in my checking account. I had student loans, and I had a full head of hair. And I'm gonna explain that some ways that you can find sources of money that are hidden to start your business, that are underutilized and overlooked, and then some management tools that can help you be successful. So I'm gonna touch base on 4 things tonight. First of all, I'm gonna talk about financing your business in the right way for your type of business. Not every business is a venture capital business. Second thing, I'm gonna talk about focusing on greatness in one target market. Third thing is how to develop a values-based culture to manage rapid personnel growth. And finally, how to incorporate the exit drivers of value into your day-to-day business operations. But first, some background. I'm a bit of a late bloomer. I'm an industrial engineer from OSU. And after a brief stint in a frozen French fry factory, good Lord, I practiced that all night, frozen French fry factory. Can you say that? I took a job as a technology consultant with Accenture. I worked there for 9 years. My first project was as staff consultant and a computer programmer, and I programmed, I don't know why they would let a kid out of college do this, but I programmed the module that calculated the payroll for every employee at Lucky Food Stores in California, and I learned that a bakery truck driver that works overtime on holiday weekends made 10 times my salary. So I almost quit to become a bakery truck driver. So over the years, I worked at a variety of technology projects and gained a background in both management consulting and technology. And when I left Accenture, I was responsible for the personal communications services line of business worldwide. And it was my job to make sure that we had the tools, technology, and expertise to deliver on these projects all across the world. But at 29 years old, I was recruited to Verizon to run a team of 200 software engineers with a budget of $20 million to develop the business customer care systems of the future. The telecommunications industry had recently been deregulated, and the baby bells needed to upgrade their systems for a competitive market environment. Okay, I have a question. When I was practicing this, who here knows what a baby bell is? There we go. When AT&T split it up, it was called Ma Bell, and the baby bells, they split into 7 bells, and those were the baby bells. Anyway, so here I am in my early 30s. I had what most people would call a good job. I had a decent salary. I had a pile of stock options in telecommunications at the time, right in the, where's the guy that was talking about 1998? I wish I'd sold him in 1998. I had 2 small children at home. I had a mortgage, and I needed to have health insurance. So, you know, if you look at the statistics from the Small Business Administration, 50% of non-employer businesses fail within the first 5 years. I'm sorry, 50% of all businesses fail. And if you take out the non-employer businesses, which are the one-person businesses, only 1 in 10 businesses is successful over a 10-year period of time. I mean, heck, I remember telling my mom that I was quitting my job, I was gonna become an entrepreneur, and I was gonna start my own business. And she cried and she said, "Why would you want to do that? Everyone we know that starts their own business loses all their money." So I started my first business in the dot-com bubble in the late 1990s. The NASDAQ had gone from 1,000 in 1995 to over 5,000 in the year 2000. Venture capitalists were eager to invest in dot-coms that time. If you just put a dot-com behind your name, it was good. And with the wide availability of venture capital, these investors were willing to overlook the traditional measures of success, like revenue model and profitability. The preferred business model of the day was to get economies of network effect by harnessing a large user base on the internet. The wisdom was get large or get lost. And I fell in love, which an entrepreneur shouldn't do, with my idea. And I was going to take the paper-based employee referral program that I used to hire employees at Verizon, and I was going to put it on the internet. My goal was that any company could set up their employee referral program in 1 business day on the internet. And so, having a lot of experience in technology and managing people, but having no idea how to start a business, the first thing I did is I said, well, I better code this thing. So I went back and I learned how to program, and I spent nights, weekends, for 6 months programming this software. And then I said, well, gosh, the next thing I better do to start my business, I better get a patent on it, right? I mean, who's going to fund me if I don't have a patent? So I went to Herman Hohauser, and I asked him, I said, hey, Herman, do you think you can patent this? He's like, yeah. And then he said something to me that changed my life. He looked me in the eye and he said, hey, I think I know some guys that would give you $1 million to start a business around this. And I said, really? And he said, yeah. And he said, would you quit your job tomorrow if you had $1 million to start this business? And I looked at him, I said, I don't know. Can I call you tomorrow? And so I went home and I reflected on it, and I said, well, why would I want to start my own business? I got everything I need here. Well, first of all, I'd been doing the same thing for 15 years. I was kind of ready for a change. The second thing is I fell in love with my idea. I wanted to see this software built, implemented, and rolled out. And then the third thing, which a lot of entrepreneurs have too, is there's a lot of money being made there. And so it was an opportunity to swing for the fence. And thus Career Rewards was born, my first business. So in 3 months, I had completed a seed funding round of $600,000 on a business plan and a prototype at a $2 million valuation. 9 months after that, I raised a Series A round of $3 million. And about a year after that, I raised a $9 million Series B round for a total of $12.5 million in venture capital. I did what the venture capitalists said. We ramped up to 80 people in the first year. The software was selected by HR Executive Magazine as one of the top HR software products of the year. And we bagged some great clients like Goldman Sachs, AOL, and MicroStrategies. And then the dot-com boom busted. The NASDAQ composite fell from a high of 5,132 in March of 2000 to just 1,470 a few months later. And I don't know if you remember, Amazon stock was at 107, and a few months later it went down to $7 a share. So in 2001, Career Rewards was acquired by Manpower International as a cornerstone for their outsourced recruiting business. And through, it was a modest success. Through the various funding rounds, I had ended up owning less than 50% of the business, but I had enough money to have patience in making my next career decision. So as I was working on the transition with Manpower, I had the opportunity to join their senior management team, but I had the startup bug. I was ready to become a serial entrepreneur. Even though I had read a Harvard Business Review article just recently that said, successful entrepreneurs are no more likely to be successful on their second time around because they were successful in the first time around, and failed entrepreneurs were more likely to fail than novice entrepreneurs. So I was like, oh man. So I spent my evenings and weekends again, and I was researching industries and markets that I felt were underserved by technology. And so after months of researching the national intelligence market in the federal government, I was sitting in a coffee shop one morning and I just made my decision. I downloaded an operating agreement for an LLC off the internet. I changed the names to mine. I took $100 out of my wallet and I started Kadix Systems. And the business model to start out was simple. I started out with one person. And my model was I would go out and I would research contracts that were coming up from bids. And then I would go find out who the customer was, and I would actually go talk to them. And believe it or not, in the government, that's a very, very rare thing. And then I would put together teaming partners that were most appropriate for that deal, and I would bid the prime contract. And I would say, my company's gonna be the prime contractor. I'll write the proposal, I'll do everything, but if you're on my team, I'll give you 50% of the work. And it worked. And so some statistics about Kadix. We did organic growth from 0 to 50 million in revenue in 7 years. We did 80 million the next year as a division of Dynamics Research, a public company. We grew from 1 to 350 employees. 2 years in a row, we were on the Inc. 500 fastest growing companies in the United States. 3 years in a row, we were winners of the Helios HR Apollo Award for best places to work in Washington, D.C. area. And we received awards for the top small businesses at the Department of Homeland Security, IRS, USDA, and the National Security Agency. So after Kadix was acquired, I spent a year running Kadix as a separate division of Dynamics Research Corporation, but I really wasn't interested in being in a public company anymore. I had spent 60 hours a week working for 25 years, and I decided it was time to move to Bend because I wanted to ski, rock climb, mountain bike, and kite surf. But I also wanted to move on the investor side. So for the last couple of years, I've been an angel investor and participated in a number of investment funds, both here and in Washington, D.C. And we're very lucky to have a really robust infrastructure here, including the Bend Venture Conference, Cascade Angels, which is a fabulous fund, and Seven Peaks, which is a venture fund that's based here in Bend. So as I go through these points, I'm going to try to give you the perspective from not only an entrepreneur, but also an investor. So first is finding the right financing for your business. And every business and industry has different financing requirements. And I'm not going to talk about debt and credit cards and making your customers pay early or venture capital, because there's a lot out there on that. I'm going to talk about what I think is one of the most overlooked and hidden opportunities, which is successful small business owners in your industry. And I'm going to tell you a story that when I did my first $600,000 of seed funding, I targeted specifically owners of successful executive recruiting firms in the Washington, D.C. area. These owners typically made $500,000 to $1 million a year in income, and so they had the disposable income to invest. So getting a meeting was really pretty easy. I would call them up and I would say, hey, I'm starting a new, I didn't say hey, I said, hello, Mr. so-and-so. Hey would not be appropriate. I'm starting a new company that uses referrals on the internet to improve human resources and recruiting efficiency. As one of the leaders in our community, would you be willing to share your expertise and provide some guidance and advice on my business plan? And 99% of the time, you get a yes, sure, let's grab a lunch, have a meeting, stuff like that. So getting to these investors is really, really easy. So I ended up presenting to three partners at a recruiting firm called Paul Tittle and Associates, and they each owned 1/3 of the firm. So 2 of the 3 partners actually had to agree to fund me, and it was looking like a stalemate. One of the partners was a yes, the other partner was a no, and he kept looking at me like this. And the other partner was kind of sitting in the middle there with a kind of deer in the headlights look, like, what do I do? So the no partner, he says, hey, remember when we bought that Betamax video player? We never get things right. And they all nodded their heads, and yeah, we were stupid. We should, the level of enthusiasm in the room went down, and I was a little bit on edge, a little bit nervous, but then the yes partner brightened up, and he said, hey, remember when we thought the fax machine was a fad? We should have bought one much earlier. And they all nodded their heads, and they said, yeah, you're right, we should have gotten a fax machine. So it went on like this for a while, back and forth, the yes partner and the no partner. And finally, the yes partner got exasperated, and he shouted, he said, most of our new clients are .coms. We can invest in a .com. We can be a .com. And then he pounded on his hand on the table, and he said, this is a sign from God. We need to move forward. And then they all looked at each other in a stunned silence for it felt like a half hour, but it was probably 3 seconds. And they all burst out laughing. I walked out of there not only with a commitment for $300,000 for my seed round, but also with free office space for 10 people for the first year. So the point I'm making is that these successful people in your industry, they're going to work on the excitement of your idea. Their process is often literally more spiritual than analytical. And they will invest because they like you and your idea. And very importantly, these small business people are not often approached by entrepreneurs. So unlike presenting at Ben Venture Conference, where you're one of 100 that's going to get narrowed down to 20, that's going to get narrowed down to 7 that present to one winner, you're one of 1. And so your odds are much higher presenting to these individuals. And some other advantages they have is they have industry knowledge. You don't have to convince these investors that your market is the right market to be in. They're already in it every day. They've got great contacts, and because they ultimately invest in you, they're willing to share those contacts. And finally, they can provide free or low-cost office space, which is quite handy. So that's step 1. So now you got your financing put together either for a new business or you're ready to grow, and focusing on one market for a target market for greatness to accelerate your revenue growth. I mean, it seems kind of obvious to me that one company can't be everything to everybody. And it kind of seems obvious to me that if you're a lingerie shop, you're not going to sell fishing bait at the same time. But in practice, it's a little more difficult than that. So let me give you an example. Kadix Systems was at an inflection point. We were focused in the national intelligence community, and we were doing about $5 million of revenue. We're starting to get a reputation that, hey, these guys can win prime contracts, and so people were coming to us with offers. And so a group came to us and said, hey, we want you to bid on the IRS teleconferencing contract for the installation and maintenance of this contract all across the world. And we said, well, we don't really know how to do that. And they said, well, we don't care. And we said, well, how big is it? And they said, well, it's a 10-year, $40 million contract. This contract would instantly double the size of our company. So we got excited, and we bid it, and we won. But the contract required very different skills than our technology and security expertise in the national intelligence community. It was basically a hardware installation and maintenance contract. And so it caused a huge internal conflict in the company. And at first, we did like what everybody does, is we tried to do both. We said, hey, we can be both. We can be a national intelligence security teleconferencing company. So about 6 months into the contract, we had an inflection point. We had a meeting with the IRS CIO and some of his deputies about getting more work at the IRS. I had a meeting at the NSA the day before, and I had another meeting at the NSA the day after. And my team was getting peppered with questions about makes and models and features of various teleconferencing equipment. And we did okay, but by the time we walked out of that meeting, the IRS chief information officer knew we weren't experts in teleconferencing. So the next day, we had an executive meeting, and we said, you know what, we can't do both of these well. And we stopped all new business development efforts at the IRS, no attempt to get new work there. We shut down our teleconferencing partners and said, hey, we're not bidding any new work there. And then we took the 12% profit margin, which was $480,000 a year, and we used it to fund our business development efforts in the national security area. And so it seems obvious that, hey, you should focus in these markets, but sometimes it's hard because you win business that you didn't intend to win. Okay, so now we've got two things. We've got a financing, we've got a target and a focus market. How do you manage growth? And why was managing growth important to Kadix? When you win a federal government contract, the size of your company in a couple of months jumps. And you can win a contract for 10 people, 20 people, 40, 50 people. The biggest contract we ever won was at the Department of Homeland Security, and we added 80 people in 5 months. And so you need some kind of glue to keep the company and the new people that you're bringing on so quickly that explains what your company's about. And so I used a values-based culture, and I define values as the collective company principles or standards of behavior, a judgment, and this is important, on what's important and how you execute your business. In some ways, it's synonymous with ethics. And so we started our values-based culture when we were 5 people. We had 3 values. First one was integrity, which meant that we always had open and transparent decision-making. The second one was professionalism, which meant we treat others with respect, our fellow employees, our customers, and anyone we come in contact with. And then the third one was quality, which meant not that we were going to be perfectionists, but within the schedule and budget we had, we would always do the highest quality. And so I would attribute our ability to bring people on board is these values gave everyone a decision framework. And we implemented this in our performance reviews. So twice a year, every person in the company had to write a sentence, just one sentence, on how they demonstrated integrity in the last 6 months, on how they demonstrated professionalism in the last 6 months, and how they demonstrated quality in the last 6 months. And it's certainly, I also attribute it, that's why we got all the awards associated with being some of the best places to work in Washington, D.C. area. Okay, so now you've got your financing in place, you've got your focus on your target market, you're growing rapidly, you got a great team that's got shared values and is happy to be working for you. The next thing that I see entrepreneurs looking for and sometimes missing is how do you develop the exit drivers of value to you, the owner of the business, to maximize your financial return and incorporate that into your company's policies and operations. So as an investor, I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs come and present, and they put up the slide that says, hey, my exit strategy is this. And they have listings of company names in their industry that have sold for phenomenal amounts of money. Well, that's not good enough, right? I don't want to know, did a company sell for a lot of money in your industry? I want to know why your company is going to sell for more money in your industry than another company. And so at Kadix Systems, what we did is we had 3 value drivers that we incorporated into our day-to-day business operations. The first one was long-term full and open contracts. And in every business development opportunity, we asked the question, if we get this customer today, can we have this customer 20 years from now? And if the answer was no, we didn't bid the deal. And that's what an acquirer is looking for. They want to know that the contracts you have in the federal government, that they're still going to be able to have those 20 years later, that their executive team is not going to be embarrassed by buying a company that's on a downward revenue string. The second thing is we knew in national intelligence that companies are valued in 2 ways, on your revenue, but they're also valued based upon the number of personnel that you have with top secret or higher clearances. And so in our business development effort, we said, okay, what projects will bring us more top secret credentials, more top secret people, and that drove the value of our company on the exit. And finally, we were fortunate enough to be doing some software projects inside the intelligence community where we developed software tools that we could port to other customers. And we always wrote A few exceptions, we couldn't get it done, but we almost always wrote protections for the intellectual property that we developed on the customer site, that we could use that in other areas. And so those were the three things that drove the value of our exit, and it's the reason that we were able to exit for such a good amount. So to summarize, really, I'm talking four things. The first one is getting your financing lined up and making sure that you don't overlook those hidden pools of investors that are successful small business people in your industry. The second thing is focusing on your target market and not being afraid to dump a customer. The third one is creating a values-based culture that provides the glue for you to grow and add new employees. And then finally, making sure that for yourself, the owner of the business, that you know what the exit value drivers are and that you've incorporated those into your operations plan so that you can meet your own personal financial goals with your business. So with that, I hope I've inspired you some, and thank you for the opportunity to speak.
I loved the entrepreneur happy dance. So questions for Doug? We have a few minutes before we sign off. Yes, Wendy in the very back. So you mentioned that your business was a prime contractor. Can you talk a little bit about how businesses do that?
Yeah, that's a really good point. Most small businesses that start out in the federal government, they start out being a subcontractor. So they basically say, hey, I'm going to find someone that knows how to be a prime contractor. They work underneath that business, and then as they get expertise, they grow into a prime contractor. I made the business decision from the start. I actually had the expertise from my consulting career to actually know how to set up and run a prime contracting organization, which is very different than a subcontracting group, which typically sells bodies to a prime contractor. And because of my expertise in how to do those proposals and the sales process, I could attract team members that would work on my team as a prime contractor. So we actually had a whole career path that we developed within Kadix Systems that said, as a prime contractor, our managers need to have this list of skills. And there was a customer management skill that we had training for. There was a contract management skill there. And then in our accounting department, we needed to have pricing expertise. So there's a technique for pricing in the federal government that if you don't have it, it's very, very difficult to be a prime contractor. So we knew what those factors were, and we're setting them up from the start.
Yes, Kip? If you had 100% ownership, how did you create a sense of ownership with the other executives in the company?
It was through our values-based culture, right? So not everybody expects to have equity-based compensation. And actually in the small business arena in the federal government, a lot of people don't believe that their business is actually going to get sold for something of value. So creating a sense of ownership really isn't just about money. It's about providing a good work environment. We provided a career path. We were one of the few companies in the federal government that actually moved people to develop their career. What happens a lot of times in the federal government is the customer falls in love with someone and you can't get them out of that particular project. But they don't want to be there anymore. They want to grow their career. So we had a whole career path on how you started out as a staff consultant, you became a senior consultant, you became a manager, you became a director, and you became a vice president. And that career path was about building skills. Now, did we lose people? Yeah, sure. Occasionally we lost people because they're like, hey, I want to be part of the equity thing of this, and that's not what we do. We're here to help you grow and develop your career, and if you want to go somewhere else that is less conducive to that, that's fine.
That's clear. What else? One or two more questions? Good. Hey, Doug, thank you so much for being with us tonight. And I have something for you, actually. You're now part of the Keynote Club here, so you bring this back to McMenamins, and they'll fill it up at every pub talk.
For free?
For free. Oh, let's do it again.
happy dance.
Thank you. Okay, so in closing, very quickly, thank you again, Doug, and thank you to all of our presenters. Thank you all for being here. Calling all entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs to the Startup Resource Fair. This is my major announcement to you tonight. BenTech presents the first ever Startup Resource Fair, Wednesday, May 24th, 4 to 7 p.m. at the 1001 Tech Space. The event will include everything you need to start and grow your business all in one place. The fair is 24 exhibitors, including Cascade Angels. Will include all types of funding from banks to VCs to angel groups, as well as business mentor groups, core professional services, and small business advisory resources. Attendees will also have the chance to meet and ask questions of successful entrepreneurs and get free advice from industry experts. The admission is free and includes a free drink. Literally, what's not to love? See you there. Don't miss it. And I'll see you here again next month for Pub Talk on May 25th. Be safe out there.